Hello, hello, hello. This is it, man. We're going live. Chris Wood Podcast, episode 58. Today we're going to be talking about youth sports. We're going to be talking about long-term athletic development, LTAD, and we're going to be talking about the problems that we see out there in the world. So, it's been long established that there is a certain protocol and certain guidance, certain tips, certain piece of advice that coaches, parents, and stuff like that should be using. Basic example would be like over-specialization, playing one sport. You ask any parent, they seem to know that that might not be the best thing for the child, but yeah, we all fall for the trap, right? That stuff happens. When we look at long-term athletic development, we don't keep the big picture in mind when we're dealing with kids. And I think as a society, it should be our goal as a parent or as a coach to encourage physical activity across the board. Obesity levels rising, overweight levels rising. When we look at things like COVID-19 and other illness, those are two risk factors that are going to lead to more severe health consequences down the line. An overweight child is probably going to be an overweight teen, which could be an overweight 20-year-old and all the way up down the line. We need to kind of nip that in the bud at a young age here. Some of this stuff here, some of these scary statistics, 25% of kids have never played a sport. And athletics, it's not the end-all be-all. You could be involved in other stuff. You could get in a gym and learn how to weightlift, right? We could consider that, an activity. 25% of kids don't do that. 70% of kids quit athletics by the age of 13. That's scary. Why are kids quitting? Things just aren't as fun as they hope they would be. And then this last number here, the scary one of them all. 97% of kids play video games, right? I get a bunch of parents coming in, too much Fortnite, too much this, too much that, too much Minecraft, whatever that is. I don't even know what these kids are talking about half the time, but it's a problem. We have 25% not playing sports. We have 70% quitting by that time they turn 13. And then we have 97% engaging in video games. We have some issues there, right? I think we could all agree with that. Now, when we talk about some of these issues that we might see, let's say we're not even talking about these. We're talking about the 75% that do play. But now we're talking about when we look at these 70% that quit, some of the issues we're going to see. We have coaches and parents yelling at kids too much. These are kids. Do you want a teacher yelling at them if they do something wrong? Are you just, as an adult, not able to communicate with them in a certain way that you lose your cool? Can you just keep your cool and just communicate with these kids? I mean, maybe that's too much to ask for. Maybe you shouldn't be involved in athletics if that's the case. They play the most talented kids at the youth level. That is fine, but the overall goal, everybody wants to win, right? Herman Edwards said it, you play to win the game. I understand that, all right? But when we're developing kids for the long haul, when we have the big picture in mind, long-term athletic development, we're going to have to get all of these kids from the top of your roster to the bottom of your roster. We're going to have to get them improved. And one way we could do that is in practice, but also getting them strategic reps in competition, all right? We overschedule games and we underschedule development. It's been around forever. It should be the inverse. It should be more training than games. It shouldn't be 4 games to 1 practice. It should be it should be 4 practices to 1 game. The ratio should be flipped. Here in America, we have it backwards, all right? We use exercise as punishment. The best way to get a kid to hate push-ups is to use push-ups as punishment as a youngster. You got to do 50 push-ups because you just talk back. Do 25 burpees. Do, 1,000 this. Like, you want them to have a positive experience with exercise? Don't use exercise as punishment. Coaches, they don't know what to do sometimes, so they just keep pounding. There's too much volume, Coaching high school football, there's some guys I used to work with, and it was just, hammering them. Stadium stairs one day, sprints the next day, agility drills the next day. That was all in addition to the stuff they did in the weight room. Bench press Monday, incline press Wednesday, military press Friday, and dumbbell bench, on some of these other days. Next thing you know, there's 3 or 4 kids that have to get shoulder surgery by the time they leave school. It's terrible strategy, terrible coaching, and it's because they just don't understand. And because they don't understand the proper way to do things, they end up piling on too much, and they just want to keep breaking you down. And they think they're doing something, but in the long run, all they're doing is breaking you down, man. Another issue we see is we use maximum lifting with kids that can't properly perform the lift. Teach technique first. Technique always seems to win, right? Slowly, I'm all about the slow cooker, right? You teach the technique and you nudge them to get a little bit heavier in the weight department. You want to slow roast this stuff. Keep in mind, it's long term. We're in this thing for the long haul. If I got kids starting at the age of 8, I want them to be proficient at 8, and then a little bit better at 9, 10, 12, 14, 16. Whenever puberty hits, we could maybe crank it up a little bit like that, but we got to be patient. Another thing, Herm Edwards again, right? Focus on the product of winning rather than the process of positive youth development. All right. Youth development, we're talking about not just physical skills, but the emotional skills and psychological skills. Kids are quitting because sports aren't fun. Just because a kid doesn't play as much as his brother or his friends, it doesn't mean that they still can't enjoy the time of it. And it's like, you know, if there's a huge separation of gap in our roster, right? If all of our focus is just on the top end, these kids at the bottom end, they're going to quit and they're going to drop out. And they're going to be part of this 70%. In order for us to fix that 70%, we need those kids at the bottom to have just as much fun as those kids at the top. All right, we need to focus on those kids. Another thing is you know, coaches out there and parents, we use repetitive drills rather than create fun game-type experiences. It's okay in practice to have fun. It is totally fine. Yesterday I set up some drills. You know, we had some multi-directional jumping, we had sprinting, we had acceleration, we had deceleration, we had change of direction. Then we had another change of direction, varying heights of hops. Then we had another deceleration, pick something up, run all the way back. We had, you know, all of that stuff mixed into a drill. And guess what? We got a lot of good work in. The kids performed it at high quality because we taught the technique prior, and they were able to have some fun and get competitive with it. That's all you have to do, right? Have fun. Let these kids compete against one another. Maybe get some teams in there. If your team needs conditioning, relay race. Do something like that. Don't just pound them and pound them and pound them with sprints, hill sprints, gassers, whatever. Try to have a little bit of fun with it, and where it's not going to feel like conditioning. You kind of trick them, right? You're just flanking them. It's like, I got to get from point, this is point B, this is a well-conditioned team. I could come straight at them, or I could come at them from the flank. More success is going to come with it when you come at them from the flank, right? Now, one of my big pet peeves coaching high school sports, coaches feel that their sport's the center of the universe and not the kids. Who cares about that kid's playing a different sport? That's a bunch of crap. They need to be in the weight room working out because football season's right around the corner. Meanwhile, they might need a mental break from football training. They could go get some positive benefits from wrestling in the winter and then running track in the spring. And then when they circle back in the summer, they're going to have some renewed vigor to get back in there, hammering the weights, getting back with the football guys, running routes, throwing passes, doing all that football stuff. Not only that, man, they're going to learn great hand fighting techniques on the wrestling mat, leverage, pushing, pulling, different kind of core strength, that grinding, that isometric type strength. That's going to be developed in a sport like wrestling. If you go out there and you run sprints, or you do throws, or you do the hurdles and track, or jumps, right? That's explosive maneuvering, right? And we could train our body. We could have a well-rounded approach by letting them go and explore and have some fun doing some different activities. We don't want to over-specialize these kids too early. Let's let them broaden their horizons. I talk about this probably in every video about youth sports. Broaden their horizons. Give them a wide skill set that they could then later pull from a wider skill set when they need these skills in whatever given task they're doing. Lastly, you know, another big one is like, as a coach, we don't focus on the child. We don't understand that, you know, the science and how to practically apply. Like, we could read all of this stuff, but if we don't know how to apply it to the kids that we work with, we're going to have some issues here. If we don't understand that kids develop at different rates, say for example, we might know that in our mind, but if we don't know how to apply, you know, different training techniques or different training practices to that, that's a bit of a problem, man. We need to kind of brush up and learn about this stuff, right? So again, the NSCA, this right here, National Strength and Conditioning Association, they came out with a long-term athletic development program, but yet these problems that I just discussed, they still exist, right? And we still have this huge dropout rate. So what does the NSCA say is their long-term, their position statement on this stuff? They have 10 pillars, and I'm going to go over them right now. Number 1, health and well-being of all kids is a central tenet of long-term athletic development. We have to care about everybody. You know, you want these kids to learn from you. You need to learn their name. You need to talk to the bottom of the roster in terms of skills, you know, just as much as the top end of the roster. To be a coach and not know everybody's name on your team is sacrilege in my book. Like, if you don't care, if you don't take the time to care to know who these kids are, why would they even want to listen to you? And why would they even come to you if they needed, you know, help or advice in anything? So we need to take that. The overall well-being of kids is the number 1 thing. We need to develop fundamental motor skills and muscle strength. This is like the old school physical education class. Fundamentals, motor skills, strength, holding a push-up plank, being able to run efficiently, maybe practicing pull-ups or hanging from a bar, climbing a rope, the fundamental stuff. Can they get into a good squat position and stand up? with just their body weight. These are things that we build off of. Number 3, kids should be routinely provided with opportunities to develop health, fitness, and skills fitness across childhood and adolescence. Unfortunately, right now, gym class, things like that, it's just getting dropped, and there's not an emphasis on that. Kids don't even have gym for the full year anymore. I don't understand what that's about. If we want to try to correct some of this overweight, obesity stuff, you know, why are we cutting physical activity from programs? I just don't understand it, right? Number 4, kids do not grow at the same rate, and growth is not a linear progression. There's these, you know, peak height velocity is a term that's used a lot, where there's going to be peaks of growth, right, where it's going to be sky high, and then there's going to be periods of, you know, stagnation and not growth. And we need to understand that, and we need to know that, you know, just because these 2 kids are 10 years old, one might be a mature 10 where they are, you know, physically kind of a little bit more like an 11 or 12-year-old, and then there's an immature 10-year-old that might be a little bit more like an 8 or 9-year-old physically, right? We need to understand that there's gaps there. Number 5 here. All kids deserve an opportunity to play, be active, and participate in sport at every age and ability. I always have an issue when kids get cut from programs. It's like, that's why we have 70% here, right? There's too much evaluation, there's too much, you know, A team, B team, elite stuff. It's like, how can you be 10 years old and be elite, man? I just don't understand that stuff. We need to keep kids out for sport. We need to, you know, offer training opportunities for everybody across the board, period. All right, the next one here, number 6. Kids should be exposed to a variety of sports, games, and physical activities. When we cut gym class, we don't learn how to play all these different sports, right? If we just specialize on one sport, we don't learn a variety of skill set, all right? That's an issue. While focusing on number 7 here, while focusing on positive sports and physical activity, it's important to remember proper injury prevention protocols and practices for youth. Kids get hurt by poor coaching. Kids could get hurt from over-specialization. Kids could get hurt from just poor quality of instruction in terms of techniques in the weight room, right? We need to have, not only do we need to have these positive environments, but we need to be able to teach and coach in these positive environments. Testing is only a snapshot of performance on that given day, so it must be used prudently when determining ability. Testing should reflect overall abilities. Just because you're let's just say you're a kid and you could deadlift 100 pounds the first week that you ever work out. In week 3, you could deadlift 135. It doesn't necessarily mean you just put on 35 pounds of strength. It means that your body got more practice at the lift and that you're able to be more proficient at it and you're able to do it more efficiently, so you're able to lift more weight because you got better at your technique, right? So we need to keep this in mind. Testing is only a snapshot. And, you know, like I said before, there's too much evaluation and all this other stuff going on. It's like a 40-yard dash for a 10-year-old. Does it really matter that much? Probably not. We need to keep, you know, we need to have this overall, the focus needs to be on overall skill set, right? And not necessarily on running a fast 40. Number 9, all kids should be introduced to strength and conditioning, which can be integrated into sports practices so that they develop positive, healthy habits, learn to enjoy strength and conditioning, and get in shape to play, not vice versa, all right? So, you know, just creating a good positive environment involving strength training, right? It's not using push-ups as punishment. It's trying to teach these kids how to move their bodies in these fundamental movement patterns where you're pushing, you're pulling, you're squatting, you're hinging at your hips and doing a jump, say, you know, things like that. Lastly, number 10, coaches need to understand pediatric principles of youth growth and development, including pedagogical instruction to best serve the youth. We need to understand how kids develop. This was already kind of brushed on before, but we need to know, you know, mentally, physically, emotionally, kids are going to develop across different genders, so to speak here. Males, females, we're a little bit different, right? We need to be able to understand and adapt. We need to have that little chameleon, the ability to be a chameleon here and you know, being able to engage with any kind of personality. And it's going back to just being a good coach and being able to communicate. And I think being a parent, I almost said adulting. Parenting, coaching, whatever it is, it's all about communication and doing things in a healthy way, man. So I hope you guys like this one. Number 57. Podcast number 57. Guys, this is out there, man. Google, Stitcher, Apple, YouTube, man. The videos are out there, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good day. Peace, everybody.